Hi everybody. Hope you can see me. Hope you can hear me. Had some technical difficulties. Still trying to get this right, so just bear with me. Not even sure where to look, but I'm going to work this out. Now I'm looking kind of dark. Oh boy. Hope everybody's doing good today. Trying to get some more light in here. So I was all set up on my laptop, but it wouldn't work. So I got to figure that out. But today I'm going to be talking about 4 sewing tools I always make sure I have 2 of. And for anyone here that doesn't know me, my name is Katrina Kellum, and my website is KatrinaKCreations.com, and I hope you can hear me. And I was supposed to be doing this live video in my Facebook group, but I could not get it to work. So that's why I'm now on my Facebook page. So hopefully everybody saw my update in the group and will come on over to my Facebook page. So I see I have one person live. Hey, yeah, hi, how are you? And I don't want to wait, belabor your time. I don't want to waste any of your time. I'm a little nervous because this is my first time doing this, but I just wanted to, give it a try. Can you hear me? If you can't hear me, please let me know. So give me a yes or a no in the comments if you can hear me or if you can't hear me, because I want to make sure before I get started everyone can hear me. And again, today I'm going to be talking about 4 sewing tools that you need 2 of. Not just because, some sewing tools get lost. I lose sewing tools all the time. But also, the other reason is, depending on how big your sewing room is, or my sewing room is not that big, it's kind of small, but I have my cutting table and my ironing board on one end, and then I have the room, and then I have on the other side of my room my sewing machine. So the other reason why besides, hi Trish, how are you? The other reason why I have 2 of some of these sewing tools is because if I'm at my sewing machine and I need my seam ripper, most of the time it's on the other side of the room. It's all the way across the room, so I have to get up and go get it. So to eliminate all of that, I make sure I have a seam ripper, or these other 3 sewing tools I'm going to be talking about at the sewing machine, and I make sure I have one at my cutting table, which is close to my ironing board. So of course I've already said one of them, and that's the seam ripper. Got to have 2 of these, okay? Because first of all, they walk away. Every time I'm looking for a seam ripper, every time I need a seam ripper, I'm trying to find it. So I made sure that I had 2 of them. Now I have some seam rippers that are also a couple of seam rippers that are bigger, but I found that these little small seam rippers are very sharp. So you're going to be able to, go through that seam, take out a seam without much effort. But I make sure I keep one of these on the cutting table, and I keep one of these right next to my sewing machine, because I'll need it, on either side of the room. I'll need it. So that way I'll always have it and know where it is, so I don't have to look for it, because we don't have a lot of time to sew. I don't know about you, but I don't have a whole lot of time to sew. So I don't want to spend any time looking for my tools. That's time I could be sewing. Hi, Joanna. All right, so that's why I have 2 seam rippers. The other tool I have is the seam gauge. And I find that these are really handy. Of course, I use it for hemming. But a lot of times when I have to hem something for myself, I need more than 6 inches to take off. So it doesn't really help me in that case. But when you have to just, when you're sewing, when you're at the machine and you have to just measure something real quick, maybe you want to double check how the spacing of your buttonhole markings, and you just need something real quick. This is nice and handy. So I keep one at the sewing machine and I keep one on my cutting table, because sometimes I'm at the ironing board, which is right next to my cutting table, and I need to measure something real quick. Don't necessarily need a tape measure, because I only want to measure a couple of inches, 2 or 3 inches. So these come in handy as for just taking a quick measurement. All right. It looks like the lighting isn't good, but I promise you guys I'm going to get this right the next time I do it. So I thank you for bearing with me, and I thank you for your patience. And I'm going to put this one as number 2 right along with the seam gauge, because they're both measuring tools, but you got to have more than one tape measure. I'm always looking for tape measures. So make sure I have, matter of fact, I have more than 2 of these. And this one, I have one that's 60 inches, but this one is 120 inches. So I make sure that I have this right next to my sewing machine when I'm sewing, and also right on my cutting table in case I need to grab it real quick to measure something. So gotta have the tape measure. So that's actually 2 different measuring tools. You can have either or, don't need to have both, but they both come in handy. And of course, we gotta have the scissors. I have a small pair here just for clipping, and then I have this bigger pair. Now I'm left-handed, and it's very hard. I mean, you have to pay a lot of money for left-handed scissors, so it's very hard to find some that's inexpensive but still good. So this is why I use these scissors. These are the best. They work for me, and they don't hurt my fingers. They don't hurt my hands when I have a lot to cut. So I've had these for a while now, but I don't keep these next to the sewing machine. I use these mainly when I'm cutting out a garment or something. So just to clip some threads, I have these scissors. These come in handy, and they have this safety cover. I make sure I don't lose this, because I don't want to reach down and grab my scissors and stab myself. And then they have the lock. They have a lock that you just open and flip the thing, and they come open for you. And I use these for cutting the threads when I sew a seam, because I don't use the cutter on my sewing machine, because it's like to the left. It's really in an odd place, and I'm always searching for it. So rather than do that, I just use my scissors. So I make sure I keep these next to my sewing machine, and then I keep these scissors at my cutting table. Sounds like very good advice. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. And the last thing, or the fourth thing, actually I thought of 2 other things after I posted everything. So I'm going to go over those 2. But the fourth tool that I want to talk about are my straight pins, right? Because we always need plenty of these. Thank you, Trish. I really appreciate you saying that. We always need straight pins, right? They walk away. Also, my family complains because, they've kind of found some in the carpet, maybe even stepped on a couple. Oops. But that wasn't intentional. But it's good to have straight pins in both spots, next to your sewing machine and also on your cutting table, in my case, by my ironing board. So I have these little tins. You know how people give you gifts, cookies? I don't know what came in these tins, but somebody gave me a gift that in this little tin. I've had it forever. You can tell it's a little beat up, but I keep my straight pins in this tin. Let's see if I can show you without dumping them out. I need to buy some more straight pins, but I keep them in this tin so that I can sort of stop them from going astray. And what I'll do is I'll stick, when I'm sewing, I'll stick some in the lid, some of the pins in the lid, and then I'll put the lid, keep the lid next to my sewing machine, because I don't need as many straight pins while I'm, at my sewing machine. But then I'll keep this on my table, so that when I'm over there, if I need a straight pin, I can just grab it. And I have the little fine pins in here. But these pins, when you're trying to cut denim, they'll hurt your fingers when you're trying to push these little pins through the denim. So I have these, and then I use quilter's pins, because they are nice and big, and they're perfect. Let me hold it this way. They're perfect for denim or a heavy fabric. They go right through, and because of this ball at the end, it doesn't tear your fingers up. And so I have a bigger tin for these, and a marking pencil. I have a bigger tin for these, and I do the same thing. I'll just put some in the lid and keep them at the sewing machine, and then I'll keep the tin at the cutting table, because I'm always, and once I get up and go to the other side of the room, I always need a pen or something, and it's always across the room. So it's just good to have. So if you want to recycle, if you got some, somebody gave you some cookies or some candy or something, or some popcorn in a tin, and you want to recycle it because it's empty now, you ate all the popcorn and the cookies, these tins work great for straight pins. And two other things that I thought of after I posted everything, and I said, wait a minute, it's actually 6 things, but one of them is optional. The other thing is, and I need to get more of these, are hand sewing needles. These things walk away so easily. I've stuck them in spools of thread. They get away from me. So it's good to have more than one set of hand sewing needles. That way you'll have every size you might need. It won't have to, worry about hurting your fingers, or you can use a thimble, but I don't tend to use thimbles because they're a little awkward for me. So I like to just make sure I have the right size hand sewing needle next to me. Not that I try to do as little hand sewing as possible, but we know that sometimes you do have to, you can't get around it. You have to do some hand sewing. So hand sewing needles, I would say, would be number 5, that you might want to keep, some at your sewing station and then some on your cutting table. And this last one is optional. But I just fell in love with them. I used them for the first time. I bought them last year, and I used them for the first time when I was adding pockets to a skirt for a friend of mine. And these little clips, when you're sewing knits, these are excellent. Rather than trying to pin your seam, just put these clips on them. They work perfectly. Because sometimes pins, you have to fight them on a knit, depending on the knit. They don't like to act right. They go in crooked. So these little clips are good to have. And you get so many of them. You get a whole case of them. You can put a little bit at your sewing station. You can put a little bit on your cutting table. If you need to hold something in place while you're pressing something, they're good for that as well. So this would be number 6. But like I said, this is not a must-have, but it's just good to have. So those are basically I've covered the 4 things, which was the seam ripper and the seam gauge, or let's say measuring tools. Number 1 was the seam ripper. Number 2 was the measuring tools, the seam gauge and the tape measure. Number 3 was the scissors, your normal size scissors, and then they have the other scissors also that you can clip, just for clipping threads. I have some of them somewhere, but I couldn't find them today. So, but this is what I used to use the most. And then number 4 was the straight pins, and then 5 even though I said 4, but 5 is hand sewing needles, and then optional these little clips and I got these on Amazon. I don't think they were that expensive. I can't remember, but they are really, really good to have. So do you have any any of you have any favorite sewing tools that you like to use, or that you have duplicates of because you either keep misplacing it, or you want to have them, multiple, one at your sewing station, one at your cutting station, so it's always you never have to run across the room to get it. And for those of you who have joined late, I was all set up, ready to go on my laptop, but I couldn't get it to work. So I'll work on that for the next time, because this lighting is not that great. So I'll work on that the next time I do it. But I'm just glad to have done it the first time. I just wanted to, do something different. I wanted you guys to be able to see my face instead of just my hands. And so you can get to know me a little bit. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave a comment. And, if not, I'm not going to hold you too long. But I do appreciate you taking the time out to check out my first Facebook Live. I'm an amateur at this, but I'll get better, the more I do it. So thank you guys so much for your patience. I really, really do appreciate it. All right, well, I'm going to sign off. And again, thank you. And I'll be giving you more advanced notice the next time I do this. You'll get more than 3 hours or a couple hours notice. You've done very well. Thank you, Patricia. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. You guys are so supportive, and I really do appreciate you. All right, so I hope that you all will have a great evening, and you'll be seeing me again. Enjoyed it. Thanks. Thank you, Pat. Thank you. I really appreciate that. All right. Have a good night, guys. Bye-bye now.